The man allegedly behind the shooting of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, Luigi Mangione. That's who we're going to be talking about here. Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author, joining us. I want to dive into the psychology of this because that's the question everybody's going to ask. Why did he do this? A lot of people, not actually having a lot of sympathy for Brian Thompson in a weird kind of sick way. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. But the fact we have a 26-year-old University of Pennsylvania graduate, very well off, very connected family. I mean, the guy had a good future in front of him, but sometimes future and setting are no match for mental health, and where that can possibly take one. And that's the question that we're trying to figure out: what was going on here with Luigi Mangione? What do we know so far about his background and leading up to this event?
Yeah, Ivy League education, valedictorian. I believe it was in high school, described by everyone as highly intelligent and overall a nice guy. Um, did have the history of a back problem. I'm not sure if it was congenital or from an injury. It could have been either. And had a major surgery a couple of years ago. And it's unclear how debilitated he was from that. We don't really have that information yet. It's possible that he did have chronic pain and subsequent problems, although in many social media pictures we've seen, he appeared to be quite fit and quite
Mhm.
athletic. And apparently, half the women in the country are in love with him at this point.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
That's a weird point about all of this, is, "Ooh, he's hot." That's what I've been hearing from a lot of women. I mean, I'm not saying men haven't done it either. I mean, men have looked at, Jodi Arias, and you name it in person here, who've been alleged to have committed crimes or been charged with crimes or have been, convicted of them, and say some of the same things. Uh, Obviously, there's that, but not really the profile of someone that we would think that would go in off as CEO, and then to connect it directly to the back injury. I mean, people are just trying to figure things out. Does any of this connect together?
Yeah, no, I called this one. When I first saw the video footage the other day before he was captured, I said this is it looked like a classic political hit.
Hmm.
And I said this is a young man in his 20s who's been influenced by extremist ideology of some sort that would justify violence as a way of making a statement to the
Hmm.
world, particularly with the words that were written on the shell casings
Yeah.
after he shot him. So it's extremist ideology, and that doesn't mean he's mentally ill at all.
Hmm.
But it's kind of a classic. I'm an avenger. I'm helping society. You get a lot of virtue signaling with guys like this, and he was a big fan of the Unabomber. We know from his writings on Goodreads that he had read the Unabomber's written words and was a fan.
Hmm.
And so I live in the Pacific Northwest. We have a lot of extremist ideology up here. We've got the far right, we've got the far left. And living in Portland, we've been in the news a lot, let's say over the last decade, also Seattle, with people fighting in the streets. And it's generally these young guys in their 20s. They identify either extreme, far left or far right, and they come out and they do battle. And each side, if you get into what they believe that they're doing the right thing and that they're saving the country.
Hmm.
And, they don't accomplish anything. The violence doesn't help. It creates havoc in the community. But that was my call on this. There's no psychosis, possibly not even a personality disorder, though you do see often, particularly when they go for a big target like this, there's some narcissism because even though they say I'm doing this for society, there's also a big element of look at me.
Hmm.
And I think we definitely saw that here. We knew he was smart. He had planned this out meticulously. It wasn't flawless by any means. He wasn't a professional hitman, which
Hmm.
some people were speculating about. But, this was clearly a bright guy. He wasn't a schizophrenic just wandering around with a gun. So
Yeah.
I think when we are the entire manifesto that he wrote is revealed. He was taking on corporate America and just really wanted to make a statement, and he did make a statement.
If we're not talking about any sort of mental illness here, that was my next question. Was there a personality disorder at play? Or I mean, it seems that there would be something. at play to not interpret reality on reality's terms, although maybe he was interpreting reality on reality's terms, just had a very different way of dealing with things. But that doesn't necessarily make you a psychopath. It
No,
just means that's a person who thinks this is right. This is just how it works for them, and that's the equation that comes out of it. And we see it very often in people that are of above average intelligence. Look at the
yes,
Unabomber, genius. This
yes,
guy probably
yes.
also right up there.
Yeah,
Almost, they're seeing things at a higher level. Not saying it's right by any means, but they're seeing things at a different level and a different perspective. Their prism, when it goes through, and the colors they're seeing are not the same colors we're seeing, and
yeah,
they're thinking something different.
I talk about extremism in my book
Yeah.
quite a bit because there's a certain category of people who do mass killings. Some of the mass shootings have been by people with extremist ideology, and that's really been my focus in research. But they immerse themselves generally online. Again, if we had his internet history, you would find a lot of immersion in these extremist communities, and they identify with it. They read a lot of books on it. His Goodreads, choices are telling a lot. And it's sort of, I mean, we use the term radicalization. You see it with the suicide bombers who are not all mentally ill. Some
No.
are, but certainly not all of them. But they become so immersed in this reality and this belief system and this sense of I'm victimized somehow, or I'm standing up for the victimized people, and they virtue signal a lot. Look
Yeah.
what I'm doing. I'm a martyr for the cause. And it's really a mindset, and it is a different reality than, what the average person inhabits.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.